this reading style. So your reading style will differ based on the type of passage. Okay, let me tell you the reading styles.
So wait, what is 2 and 3? What does
I'm,
2 and 3 say? There's number 2 and 3.
I'm sorry.
It's classification. After what comes
Yeah,
after classification?
yeah. Strategy to read
What's 2
and
and 3?
strategy to answer
Oh,
questions. Yeah, I'll write it again. So classification, reading strategy, and answering strategy. Okay. So when
okay.
we say classification of a passage, you will first of all decide whether it is a whether it is a narrative passage or a science passage or a humanities passage. And based on the nature of the passage, your reading strategy will differ. Let us quickly discuss the reading strategies for different types of passages. Basically, there are two reading strategies. The first is serial and the second is combing. I'll rather call it as sectional, serial and sectional. So what do we mean by serial reading? Serial is you start from the first paragraph and then you keep on reading till you reach the end of the paragraph, the last paragraph. Like reading in a serial order, the way we do our reading a story or something. All right. So that is serial reading. Sectional reading is identifying the sections and transitions. So reading one section at a time and answering questions based on that. We also call this as combing. So while in serial reading, what do? You read the whole passage first from the beginning till the end and then you answer questions. You don't answer questions unless you have read the whole passage. In sectional reading, what do? You read one section, answer questions based on that, then the next section, answer questions based on that, then the next section, answer questions based on that.
So we read like one paragraph,
Yeah, one
or
paragraph,
one section meaning one.
one section means one paragraph. That is correct. Now, which strategy to apply for which passages? This is the question. For a narrative passage, you should apply the serial reading strategy. For the narrative passage, you have to use the serial reading strategy. Okay. For all other passages, which means for the science passage or for a humanities passage, you should apply the sectional reading strategy or combing. Why so? Why? What is the logic behind this? Why should you apply different reading strategies to different types of passages? Well, because the way the passage is
It just
arranged,
makes sense.
yeah, yeah, because it makes sense. How does it make sense? In a narrative passage, the whole lot of paragraphs would be related to one another. So the story as a whole is something important. You have to know all the things in the story in order to answer questions. Like all these things which I am telling are very general. They are not, I mean, hard coded, and you have to follow the rule the way it is. Sometimes you'll have to be a little flexible in your approach in a narrative passage also. All right. But in general, this is the rule you should follow, that you read the whole passage first and then answer questions in case it is a narrative passage. Because the sections are not separate, they are kind of linked with each other. And until unless you know what is the whole story, it's difficult to make out what answers, I mean, the right answers, because the answers do not have a boundary of one particular paragraph always in case of a narrative passage.
Cereal spelled with a S or a C? It's
This
spelled with a
is
S? Okay.
serial, S, serial
Okay.
reading
Yeah.
strategy, sectional reading strategy, and here it is combing. S, serial is S.
Okay, I see.
Mm-hmm. All right. Even in a narrative passage, sometimes you can straight away jump to a few questions, like if they give you a certain line or a certain word, what is the meaning of this word in the given context? You can straight away go to that particular question and do it even when you have not read the passage. All right. So we have discussed about three things. I want you to take care of three things. First is classification of the passage. The second is reading strategy, and the third is writing strategy. Oh, sorry, answering strategy. Right? Let us discuss the answering strategy now. You'll find that the questions can be divided into following categories. The questions can be divided into following categories. They are word-based questions, line-based questions, paragraph-based questions, and passage-based questions. Word-based, line-based, paragraph-based, and passage-based. So, Laili, can you please tell me what is a word-based question?
So I think that means like, what does this word mean in this line, or
Yes, exactly.
this word in this line? It must be like that,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. You're right. So, for a word based question, you don't really need the context of the whole passage. A small section is enough. You can read just two, three lines and answer questions which are word based questions. You don't have to know the whole story, isn't it? A little idea is enough. Okay, a little note about vocabulary. Do you really need to work on vocabulary and remember lots and lots of words in order to get good marks in reading? Does it make sense to go through word lists?
Yeah.
I would say yes and no. Yes, because knowledge of words definitely makes you more confident. And learning words separately is a good idea in general also, you know, not just from the perspective of reading, but also from the perspective of comprehension, answering questions, even writing. Your speed increases a little bit if your vocabulary is very strong. Okay, but you should not invest too much time in learning vocabulary. There was a time that in SAT there were separate questions on vocabulary. So there was a section where there were questions on vocabulary itself. So how should you do it? If I give you a list of some words with their definitions, and if you just keep on reading them casually, even there are some apps available which you can download in your mobile and just casually keep on reading them. Okay, because developing vocabulary is a very long term affair, like, you know, something which is never ends. I'm also learning a lot of words these days, so new words get coined, and we cannot really be sure of knowing all the words, but we can definitely make an effort to get ourselves acquainted with as many words as possible. So I would not really like you to be too concerned about vocabulary. It's about the context. Even if, okay, let me give you an example. People were skeptical about, people are skeptical about epistemological authenticity of news. People are skeptical about epistemological authenticity of news. In this sentence, how many words do you understand? How many words are beyond your comprehension? I mean, how many words are unknown to you? People, do you know this word? Yes.
Too.
Are, you know this?
Yeah.
Skeptical?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. About,
Yeah.
what about this one?
Yeah. No.
Epistemological, do you know this?
It has logical in it. So is this something to do with
You're too good. This
logic?
is fantastic. Yes, yes. This is a very good answer. So logical is there, epistemological. But anyways, we don't know this word as of now. Let's cut it. All right. I just want to put a tick on the words about which we are sure, and I'll just cut the words which I don't like. Or I mean, not like, which I don't know. Authenticity, you know this? Something authentic. You understand this word?
Yeah.
Authentic is something
I
which
just don't
is
know this.
trustworthy. It's an authentic
Trustworthy.
piece. It's an authentic story. Something which we on which we can believe, right?
I just don't use that word.
Yeah,
I
we
don't
don't
use that
use
word though.
exactly. It's not a very common word, but an authentic piece of writing is an original piece of writing, something which is not altered, something which is in its raw form, something which is true and trustworthy, something which is not covered, authentic. Like sometimes we say that we use this as an adjective to describe a person who is truthful and honest. Laili is very authentic. So what would that mean? That she is truthful, that she is trustworthy is what it is. You have a separate notebook for vocabulary?
Yeah, it's in the same notebook actually.
So authentic. Okay, you know this word. I'll just tick mark. You don't remember it, but then you have used it. You've seen it somewhere earlier. Of news. All right. In this sentence, if you look at it once again, Leave everything, Lily. Don't worry. In fact, I'm recording this
Okay.
session so I can give this to you. I've not given the earlier one also. I can give both of them. But you don't have to write too much. Don't worry
Okay.
too much about it. So if you look at this sentence, people are skeptical about epistemological authenticity of news. There's just one word which we don't understand here.
Uh, okay, I think I get what it's trying to say from like most of it,
Hmm.
like most of the words. I think I get what it's trying. Yeah. So
So what
people
am I trying to
are like
say?
wary of like how trustworthy is the news. Is it that
Yes,
how people are wary about how trustworthy the news? Yeah.
yes. So this is a fantastic example of how we can manage without vocabulary also. Every word has a context, and if we understand the context, we don't have to understand the word. Even if I don't understand what is the meaning
Okay.
of epistemological, I still understand the meaning of this sentence that people are skeptical. What is the meaning of skeptical, by the way?
Wary,
Yeah,
like wary of somebody,
come again, please. Wavy.
like wary of somebody, like wary, like
V A R Y.
W A R Y.
Oh, W A R Y.
WARY.
Very. People are skeptical.
Wait, no.
Very.
Now am I spelling it?
I understand what you're saying. Careful.
Okay. Yeah.
They are
Yeah,
not
careful, basically. Cautious.
cautious. Yeah, that's right. So people are cautious about or wary about news reporters. Cautious about news reporter. You still get the idea, and that's what it is. Epistemological means the origin of knowledge, you know, which is very similar to authenticity.
Okay.
Epistemological means like how the news
Can
started.
can I note that?
Yeah, you can note that.
How do you spell this?
Epistemological.
T
E P
T
I
E
epis
M.
T E M O L O G I C A L. Epistemological is
Okay,
origin of knowledge. Can you just
I
Google
got
it
that.
quickly, please? Or I can Google it for you in a minute.
Okay,
So you will get the exact wording for
okay,
it. What it means is how the knowledge originated. What is the origin of knowledge? How
okay.
something like what is the source of knowledge? You know, you can write source of
Yeah.
knowledge. Can you see my screen right now?
No,
Is it visible now or not? One second, let me reshare it.
it's not.
Yeah, can you see it now?
Yeah, now I do.
So it says the theory of knowledge, especially with regard to methods, validity, and scope, and the distinction between justified belief and opinion. The example of epistemology is a thesis paper on the source of knowledge, the branch of philosophy dealing with the study of knowledge. Theory of knowledge asking such questions: what is knowledge? How is it acquired? All these questions. So epistemological is like originality of something. You know what? In general, I mean, if we talk about it in a very simple sense, if somebody is concerned about epistemological authenticity of something, means I don't believe you. Simple. You have manipulated the data.
Okay,
If I'm skeptical about epistemological authenticity, means all these news reporters these days, they try to cook up stories. Do they do that? Do you see that people are not very they don't blindly trust news reporters? So this brings me to something which is extremely important point. What is that extremely important point? You can forget that you don't know some words, or lack of vocabulary is really going to play a very important role in your journey of reading. You can always guess the meaning of the word with the help of other words. In a sentence,
So contact clues.
yeah, context clues, that's
Con-
correct.
yeah.
So, in a sentence, one particular word is not really going to play a very important role. Technically, you should actually cancel the word the way I've done it and read the whole sentence without the word. People are skeptical about authenticity of news is as good as people are skeptical about epistemological authenticity of news. Isn't it funny and interesting? Now you have to
Yeah.
apply this when you do reading, right? Don't think yourself, don't consider yourself limited by lack of words. I'm not saying you should not work on vocabulary, but then while doing reading, it's more about context than an individual word. Okay, so let me come back to these questions. The first is word based question, second is line based question, third is para based question, and fourth is passage based question. Before this, I would like you to understand window of reference. What is this window of reference? For every question, there is a window of reference, right? Either it is one word, or one line, or one paragraph, or the whole passage. So basically, we have got four different types of questions: word based questions, line based questions, paragraph based questions, and passage based questions.
Okay.
If I give you a choice, which order would you like to follow? Which questions would you like to do first?
Well, first I'll do it from this order that you just wrote out. First the words, then the line, then the paragraph, then the passage.
Yes, exactly. So I would like you to follow this sequence always. You don't have to answer questions in the sequence they come. You should do word based questions, line based questions first, and then paragraph based questions and passage based questions. Word based questions would be worded as, what is the meaning of this word in the given context? A line based question is where they give you the line number. In line number so and so, what is the writer trying to say? So you can just expand your window a little bit more from the line which is referred to. You can read two lines before the given line and get the answer. A paragraph based question would be when they say in the third paragraph or in the fourth paragraph what is going on. So once you have done word based and line based questions, probably you would have already read something before and after the paragraph. And once you have done paragraph based questions, you would have a very fair idea of the passage. Then you should do the passage based questions, which is based on the whole passage. Like, we call this as central idea question or the theme question.
Okay, so when there's a word question, so if we're running out of time, what I do is that if I didn't read a passage, I'll just do the word questions. Is that okay? a good way of doing it?
Perfect, perfect. It's a very good idea. And even if you're not running out of time, you should first do the word-based questions. See, the point is that a difficult question also gives you 1 mark, an easy question also gives you 1 mark. And there are two reasons to do easy questions first. There is one psychological reason. When you do a question correct and when you think, oh, you have done it correctly, it gives you a boost. And it sort of translates into confidence to do the difficult question also correctly. But if you have done a difficult question first and you are not sure about it, your confidence shakes and even you do the easy question incorrectly with that
Okay,
shaky confidence. Does it happen?
okay, I see. Yeah,
So this is one big reason. You
that
should
makes
do easy
sense.
questions first because it makes you a little more cautious, a little more awake. The second reason is, of course, the time. An easy question would take less time. So if we do easy questions first, we are able to save that much time. There's one more big reason, which is comprehension. You know, when you do easy question first, like a word based or line based question, you actually read some section of the passage
Understand more.
already. So when you read the whole passage, you would know, oh, this was something which I have read. And connecting the dots would become easier because you would already know some dots. So you can directly do this and jump over here.
We
Because
still read the passage first, right, for word-based questions, and
yeah,
we still read the passage first, and then I do questions.
in actually
Yeah,
for the word based, I mean, I will come to that in a minute. But then yeah, for word based question, primarily you don't have to read the passage. You just have to read that particular paragraph and a few lines here and there which are related to that word, because you don't need to know everything. It's just that word. So why should you read? So like for example, these are the paragraphs, and a word based question is from this paragraph. At most you have to read this paragraph. This would not be related, right? Why should you read all these paragraphs
yeah.
to answer a word based question? A little bit. You can expand the window based on the context, maybe to the maximum extent this paragraph, but not this for sure, not this for sure, not this for sure. Similarly, for a line based question also, you would read at most one paragraph, not the previous paragraphs, except when the situation is that this line is the first line of the paragraph. Sometimes the first line has a reference from the previous paragraph. We call this as transition question. You're feeling a little sleepy, it seems. What is the time there right now?
No, it's not late. I'm just No, I'm not yawning.
Okay. So
It's
these
fine.
are so this is some very important strategy that you can do the easy questions first. Even in a difficult paragraph, there would be some easy questions. And if you are running out of time, this is super important. Even when you are not running out of time, there are good reasons to do the easy questions first. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So, this is what is super important. Let me sum it up. So, the first thing you would always do is you will classify the passage, whether it is a narrative passage or a science passage or a humanities passage. The second thing is you will apply the right reading strategy. The reading strategy for narrative passage would be serial. You'll have to read the whole story, right? For a science and for a philosophy passage or a humanities passage, you can use sectional reading. You can read one section at a time, answer questions based on that. Next section, answer questions based on that. Next section, answer questions based on that. Usually the questions are in the sequence of the passage. So the sequence of questions and sequence of passage would be the same. Usually, all right. Sometimes they break this rule, but this is like a general ground rule. All right. And the third thing we have studied about is answering the questions. So classifying the passage, reading the passage, answering the questions. So while answering the questions, you should do word-based questions first, line-based questions next, paragraph-based questions next, and last would be the passage-based question like the summary question. Do you see yourself a little organized in your approach now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have a path to follow whenever you do a passage. Today, I want you to give a little idea of a science passage. In next 20 minutes, we'll discuss about science passage, and I want you to do lots and lots of science passages from test 1, test 3, and test 5. Okay? So what is a science passage? I would like to take at least one, but then let me just discuss about the basic structure of a science passage, and then we'll go to,
I think it's like they propose a question and then they test it with experience
yeah,
and then they reflect on it.
exactly. Either it is something which is based on some established knowledge or it is based on some experiment. An established knowledge question would be something which is already established. We already know about something and they are giving information. Like, for example, there is a passage in test 1 about DNA, the structure of DNA. It's a double helical structure, and there are some purines and pyrimidines. Have you heard these words earlier? Some structure of DNA.
Not purines and
Purines
pyrimidines.
and pyrimidines are there. They have given some technical words: adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine. These are the four different bases which make up the DNA. All right. So they try to scare you with these difficult words as if they are some ghosts. Adenine, guanine, thymine. You will think, oh my God, am I on Earth or I have reached Moon? So don't get scared by these words when they use in a science passage, because this is the first time you would be kind of
Okay.
hearing these words. So these are knowledge-based passages where they will throw some difficult words and some context which would be debilitating. You would feel a little fearful. Am I really getting it? Or this passage is like too much for me? But then all these technical words, they don't expect you to know. What you can do is some p, don't read it the way it is, puri pyri like this. Give off your some of your own names, because it's not very important to kind of even pronounce them correctly from the context of answering questions. So they are knowledge based passages. The second category of science passage is an experiment based passage, where they tell you about how did they approach a particular problem, going from unknown to known, from what do you call, um, from query, from quest to answer. All right, there would be something like an unknown phenomena, and they will do some experiments to know the right cause behind that unknown phenomena. They will tell you a lot of things about how they got it. Like, for example, all right, how did birds started flying? How did they acquire the ability to fly? Do you know this? So let us say there is a scientist by the name
No.
Lily who is interested in birds. She's trying to do some experiment. How did birds start to fly? I mean, why human beings never fly? How is it that birds only fly? So she got curious about it and she did some experiment. She came up with two hypotheses. The first is there was some bird which first climbed on a tree and just jumped from it, and somehow the wings got developed. Lots of birds just jumped, died. God was so kind, he saw that, oh, so many birds dying, so he gave some wings to the birds, and that's how the bird. So basically she's saying that there is some tree down theory or tree down hypothesis, that they jumped from the tree and that's how they started flying. There is another theory which says ground up theory. Ground up theory says that, okay, fine, there were some kind of inclined planes like these mountains and all. So when they used to walk on this, it was very difficult. It became more and more difficult walking at these places. So this they used to flap their hands like this. So there were some creatures who were flapping their hands and flapping for generations. The hands became wings. So Lily has
That
come.
one makes more sense.
Yeah, so Lily has made two theories, two hypotheses. One is tree down, another is ground up. Now, okay, it does make sense, but then we are not sure. It could be tree down also. Somehow they used to climb up and then when they jumped, they did it. So what will she do? They will find some kind of experiment. Now, the problem is we are talking about something in the history. She cannot create a dinosaur to know how dinosaur used to work, isn't it? It's in the past. So if I want to study dinosaur, what
Yeah.
would I do? Probably I will study
Um.
some big creature like elephant and make guesses. Oh, if elephant is doing this, a dinosaur would also have done this. Why? Because the same size. So some go between
The
you
elephant
would arrange.
mammal.
So what would you do if you want to
Okay.
know how birds started flying? You cannot go back in the era. We still are away from time machine where somebody can take you back to the 300 years back. I want to do experiment on ancestors and fossils. God, please take me to 3000 years back. It is this science is yet to get developed. Probably in your lifetime you would see it. I don't see it happening in my lifetime. So what would you do? You would take some sample, right? Here there is a passage where they took the sample of some chukra words. There is a word by the name chukra. I'm not sure whether I'm spelling it correctly or not, whether it is chukar or chukra, some kind of bird. They're small chickens. They started doing experiment on chickens, how chickens learn flying, and from this they kind of thought that they would also know how the bird started flying. So basically, this they did experiment on small chukar birds. Does it make sense? Maybe not.
Okay.
you know so how human beings acquired language, if I want to learn that, what would I do?
Um. You could.
hmm? I want to know how human
You
beings
could
acquired
try with
acquired
animals.
language. I want to study that. Now I cannot go back in history, so what
Okay,
can
so
I
you
do?
could study about it, and then after,
Hmm?
I was thinking you could study about it. Like you could study about study about it first, and after that you could try it with maybe animals that are similar to humans,
How humans
and see how
acquired
they like talk with
language.
each other.
I want to study this. How it started. How did it all start? I want to study this. How can I study this? I cannot go back in time. Do I
So
have some
first you
clues?
gather knowledge.
What I can do is one clue I have is
You
I can
gather
study
knowledge
children.
is not. Oh, okay.
When they are born, they are not with a language. Do you see a kid speaking English as soon as he's born? He says, "Mom, how are you doing today?" If he's
No,
in America and in India, he'll speak Hindi. Would it happen? No. A kid is without
no.
language, right? Like a human being was without language at some point
Yeah.
in time. And then after some time, the kid is without language and with language. Probably,
That's because he hears it.
exactly.
He
So if
hears
I,
it from others, and then he starts imitating
yeah,
it.
the kid is as confused as a person without language initially, you know. People come and say, "Oh, such a beautiful kid, you're so looking so good. Your nose is like your father." He doesn't understand what's going on. After some days, he acquires the language. So although the situation is not exactly the same, but still we can consider this guy as a guy without language, and something happens to him that he acquires language. Probably our ancestors also followed the same sequence. Although at that time nobody spoke any language, but then there must be some context, something happening, some kind of transaction happening, that they developed a language, and now we are able to write stuff. This is something super, isn't it? I'm writing something and you are understanding. So language is not just sound,
Yeah.
it's also vision. We don't really appreciate this, but look at this from the perspective of an old, like 1,000 years back, when there was not no written language. You can't write a letter at that time. Email, oh my God, how is that possible? Now it is possible because we have signs. So okay, fine. So basically, what I'm trying to say is this: there would be some passages which are based on knowledge, there would be some passages based on some experiment. In science, these are the two types of passages.
Okay.
All right. Now, wherever there is an experiment based question, knowledge based question would be would be straightforward. Knowledge based question would be more or less straightforward. It would be all information about something. How, what is the structure of DNA? How does something work? Like how does gravity work or gravitational force work? It's not an experiment, it's knowledge. It's already established. They're just giving you information. That's a knowledge based passage. In an experiment based passage where there is something unknown, there would be certain paragraphs dedicated to certain sequence of things. The first paragraph would be definition of the unknown problem. So the first paragraph would be unknown problem. Always, always, always this will happen. The first paragraph would be an unknown problem. The second paragraph would be hypothesis. The third paragraph would be testing. The fourth paragraph would be results. And the fifth paragraph would be either the documentation of results or certain actions or conclusion. Unknown problem. How did birds acquire the ability to fly? I don't know. The first paragraph would be devoted to this. Hypothesis. Ground up or tree down. These are the two hypotheses. What is a hypothesis?
Oh, like a theory?
Like a theory. No, not theory. It's a guess. A theory is still based on some
Okay.
fact, right? It's a guess. It's hypo means away and thesis means truth. Hypothesis means away from truth. right? So hypothesis, there would
Okay.
be unknown problem, there would be hypothesis, they will test it, right? So there would be one complete paragraph on how to design the test. They will give you a justification for choosing the baby chukar birds. Why did they choose chukar birds? Well, they cannot go back and do it, so there would be test. There would be results based on whatever study they do, that they did some experiment of ground up or tree down, and they found that, oh, we don't know. Sometimes after the whole lot of experiment, there would be a very funny situation. At the end they will say, we don't know, still not clear. So this is a funny passage. You did all this thing, and at the end of it, it is quite possible, right?
Yeah.
So there would be either some concrete result, or there would be I don't know result. I still don't know result. And based on that, there would be actions. Why is it good to know this? Why am I telling you all this? How will it help? Is it useful? What is the use of knowing all this?
Yeah, it's useful.
Why?
So I could tell how to like debunk the passage later on.
Exactly. Now you have a framework, and you can always ask yourself what is going on. If it is a science based passage, are they defining the problem? Oh, this paragraph is all defining the problem. They are telling unknown, unknown, unknown. We don't know this, we don't know this. Oh, what are they doing? They are talking about some hypothesis. Okay, okay, okay. They are making some guesses. They are trying to connect the dots. What are they doing? They are doing testing here. Oh, okay, they are testing now. What are they telling here? These are the results. And this will always be in this sequence. It cannot be first results, right? So the
Yeah.
results would be the last paragraph. Testing would be the second last. Like this, it will happen. Now you can afford to connect the questions with the part of the passage, because the language of the question would tell you whether it is related to problem or hypothesis or testing or results. You would know which portion to read with respect to which question, right? So this would make you very fast. One way to gain speed is to think in terms of design and templates. So what I've given you today is a design or a template of a science passage. So whenever you strike a science passage, you should ask two questions to yourself. I read it. Oh, it is knowledge. How do I know? I read the conclusion. They're not saying that something got derived. It's all knowledge stuff. They're just telling me something. But what is this passage? Oh, it is an experiment. Oh, they didn't know something. They are telling how did they know it? What steps did they follow? Now, when you do the questions, oh, there would be some questions based on the unknown stuff. What was the question? Like, what was the unknown thing? There would be some questions based on the setup of the experiment. There would be some questions based on hypothesis. There would be some questions based on conclusion. When you classify questions, when you classify passage, you will be able to do it fast. Do you think so? You will be able to increase speed this way?
Yeah.
Now, this is the task I want you to do today from test 1 and test 3. I want you to do only the science passages.
Okay.
If I quickly open that test paper, I can tell you which passages are science passages from them. Just give me 1 minute, I'll tell you which passages. This is going to be a lot of fun. Why? Because now you would be looking at the passages from a different perspective. You would not look at it like, oh, what am I reading? You'll try to know what is going on, as in whether it is an experiment. You know, you understand what we are doing now. We are not really getting into the thick of the thin things. We are not trying to understand everything very deeply. We are trying to understand the structure of the passage. And if we understand the structure, it becomes so easy to understand the whole passage. We are trying to label different sections of the passage under different headings. Oh, this is, they are defining the problem. What are they doing here? They are setting up some experiment. What are they doing here? They're telling that this is how they did the experiment. What are they doing here? They talk about results. So all these paragraphs would be very clearly marked. Okay, if I talk, let me just share the screen once again. I'll take another 2 minutes, I think, and we will be done. Can you see the passage now? Yeah. So this is not the science passage. I want you
No.
to, from test one, I want you to do questions. I'll tell you which questions. Questions 22 to 31. This is a knowledge-based passage. No experimentation happening here. 22 to 31 from test 1, and yeah, 42 to 52 also, although this is a different type of passage altogether. Oh no, don't do 42 to 52, leave that. So only this one. Then I'll tell you from test 3. These are the SAT tests, okay? But in your PSAT also, this is going to remain the same. It's not going to change. There would be the science-based passages, and this is the structure you would follow there. Now I'm telling you from test 3 which passages you are supposed to do. Okay, hold on, I opened the wrong test paper. From test 3, I want you to do questions. Yeah, this is that Chukar's question. Questions 21 to 30. This is the same one, the ground up and tree down. So you'll do this 21 to 30 from test 3, and yeah, 42 to 52 from test 3.
40, okay, so 40 to 52. 42
Yeah,
to 50.
42 to 52 from
That's my favorite.
test 3. Yes, that's it. So basically there are three passages, one from test 1, two from test 3. All right. So this is your homework, and we are going to meet in the next class as we discussed, probably on Wednesday morning. My Wednesday morning, your Tuesday evening. No, it's Tuesday itself. My Tuesday
Okay.
morning, your Monday evening. Tuesday 5 a.m. Again, I have another class. So 6, same time, day after tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. See you then. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.